Welcome back to the show. We continue our conversations with some of the new councillors. Of course, the swearing-in ceremony happening tomorrow. You can catch it right here on Rogers TV at 10:30. And Stéphanie Plante joins me from Rideau-Vanier Ward. Welcome. Great to have you here. My ward, I guess I should, put that bias out there right away, is my ward. But again, as I'm asking all of the councillor-elects, for people that aren't familiar with you, tell us a little bit about your background.
Yeah, of course. So I was born in the sprawling metropolis of Tecumseh, Ontario, in southwestern Ontario, to Francophone parents. And I moved up to Ottawa during university to work for a man named Herb Gray, who was Deputy Prime Minister at the time. He plucked me out of an internship program out of the University of Windsor, and I never left, and I've always lived in Rideau-Vanier. I love it. It's where I call home. It's where I'm raising my family. And for my sins, I was elected a councillor on October 24th, and I'm thrilled. I have a very active community. It's never a dull moment in Rideau-Vanier, and so I'm very much looking forward to helping them push forward the good work that I feel the previous councillor, Mathieu Fleury, also was doing. Yeah,
what's your relationship been like with Mathieu up to this point?
Right, so I cut my teeth in the community associations, and as you know, the councillors are usually really involved in community associations, so when I was on the Vanier and now the Sandy Hill Community Associations, he would come to every meeting. We've worked on a lot of projects together, so when I announced I was running, he was very supportive in the sense he was meet with these people, go to these events. And after I was elected, I've literally just been embedded in his office, trying to learn the ropes and meeting with stakeholders and also meeting with key city staff because we have some, as you know, long-standing issues in my ward that need some immediate attention. Trucks on King Edward, the opioid crisis, the housing crisis. So learning who can help push those files in a certain direction has been really helpful.
What about the relationship with the other councillors, the incumbents and new city councillors, Mayor-elect Mark Sutcliffe? Have you had a chance to talk to all of them so far?
Yeah, so I've had 2 meetings with the Mayor-elect.
Okay.
Usually he just wanted to know kind of some of the key files in my ward because, we do have some big institute. We have the University of Ottawa, we have the Byward Market, which is going to be 200 years old. The francophonie aspect in Vanier is also very important to him. And then the new councillors we've had our councillor school for the last 2 weeks, and the old councillors as well. I've sort of just been roaming the halls and saying hi to them, but I just made myself a personal goal that I wanted to have coffee or a meal with every councillor before the new year. So I'm really looking forward to that. Some of them I'm going directly to their wards, which I haven't left my ward in a long time.
Yeah, nice to get away every now and then.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah. So for example, some of them live on farms, so I'm very excited to see that. My family's going to go out there and go visit them, and the goal is to just sort of get to know them on a personal level, because I find, we're obviously going to have disagreements. There's going to be files we don't agree on, but I don't ever want anything to get personal or vindictive, and it's okay.
I think we've seen enough of that.
Enough, correct? Yes.
You mentioned some of the priorities for Rideau-Vanier, but when you look at sort of maybe the first 3 or 4 months of this first term for yourself, what's the number one priority for you?
So I'm going to be getting off the ground a family doctor recruitment committee. We've heard way too much about what's happening in our ERs right now, especially in the Ottawa area, that it's time we start focusing, I think, on primary care and making sure that we have the infrastructure that attracts family doctors. I'm very lucky in my ward. I have the University of Ottawa, which has a medical school. So I'm hoping to work with them to sort of retain their graduates and see if we can encourage them to stay in Ottawa and how we can create an environment where they want to stay. And a lot of cities have tinkered with this already, Hamilton, Burlington, Windsor. So there's lots of examples.
Well, what do you think some of the reasons are that we've had trouble with retention?
Well, the one thing I hear over and over again, and I want to clarify, I'm not a family doctor, but the one thing I hear over and over is they don't want to be sort of small business owners. So when you become a family doctor, you take on a sort of big enterprise. You got to deal with the buildings, and you have to deal with snow clearing and parking and ordering supplies, and a lot of them just kind of want turnkey operations, which some municipalities, that's very much a municipal issue. They can provide leases, they can help with stuff like property management. So I'm hoping the city can definitely do that, because especially when you're first starting out, it can be a bit daunting to take all that on and then to typically we see that they either have to join big conglomerates like the Apple Tree, or some of them just give up altogether, and that's definitely not what we want.
What about housing? You know, Rideau-Vanier, and actually we can look right across the city. I mean, that's a big one, you know, just talking to both Sean and Lane and Bill 23. That's got to be a concern for all of you at City Council.
Absolutely, and every single person who has elected, including the mayor, had some aspect of housing or affordable housing in their platform, so that's definitely something we're all on the same page for. And I don't know if I'm lucky, but in my ward I have a lot of empty government buildings where a lot of people don't necessarily want to go back to the office. So after I'm elected, I plan on calling the president of the Treasury Board, who just happens to live in my ward and represent my ward on the federal level.
How ironic, yeah.
How funny how that works. And so I definitely want to have a conversation with her about how we can transfer some of those buildings or lease them to the municipalities, because it's going to take a minute to retrofit them for housing. It's not as easy as it looks.
Yeah.
And the other thing, and we hear a lot at election time about developers and sort of the relationship they have with City Hall, but I really kind of want to focus, at least in my word, on the big property management companies. So the CLVs, the districts, the Sleepwells, they own a large percentage of the rental stock in this city, and I would like to see them dedicate a percentage of it to affordable housing. And I don't know if they need a carrot, if they need a stick, but I'd like to sit down with them to find out how we can make that happen.
Stephanie, you mentioned the opioid crisis as well. You know, we've seen, you know, the amount of people living on the streets is you know, the numbers are going up, it seems, almost on a monthly basis. How can we tackle that right away?
Well, the first thing is we need wraparound services. So any sort of, we have a shelter model here in Ottawa, which needs to dedicate itself a bit more to sort of helping those. It's not that they don't want housing, it's just they have some setbacks which require them to have a little bit more supportive housing. And we've seen some really great models. Shepherds of Good Hope has, I think, a 40-unit model at Montfort Hospital, which is really fantastic. And I'm hoping to replicate those, not just in my ward, but around the city, because there is homelessness and addiction and mental health issues in Canada, in Orleans, in Barrhaven. And I personally just don't think it's fair that we make them come all the way downtown to receive help.
I couldn't agree more. Stephanie, thanks so much for joining us. Really appreciate it. We'll be right back.